Hi VC, it's Martin here. A little bit late as usual. Um, some of you have already shown your top 10 of 1981. I'm still missing my uh, top 10 of 1980. I will quickly do this now, and I will also try to make my 1981 soon, so I'm not ending up being the last one every time. But yeah, let's get to it. I have chosen 10 records here. First off is a Danish band called Cliché, and this is their debut album Super Tanker, or Super Tanker as it's called in Danish. This is, they play sort of, yeah, new wave. Yeah, it's not really post punk, it's more new wave. They're very inspired by Kraftwerk and this kind of very yeah, like machine sound, or very robotic sound in a way. I think also the big ship should illustrate it's a big machine, a big engine, and yeah, it's very driving music, and yeah, they're singing in Danish, so for to most of you, it's probably going to be a little bit strange encounter if you listen to this record. In Denmark, they're quite known, and this is seen as a quite important uh, record from the 80s. Yeah, this is released on the Danish label Medley, which was a bigger label in Denmark, and yeah, it's a quite cool record. I like it. I can understand if some of you, you know, sometimes it's a little bit difficult when it's another language, and yeah, but I think maybe some of you would at least enjoy the music. Next up here we go to Germany, and this is Fehlfarben, and the record is called, let's see if I can, Monarchie und Alltag, which means monarchy and everyday life. And this is also a new wave post-punk record, and it's seen as one of the most important, I think, one of the most important new wave releases from Germany. They have a quite nice energy. It's a little bit more, if you compare it to the Cliche album, which we shouldn't maybe, but then this is a little bit more punk or a little bit more energetic, where the other one is a little bit more maybe, uh, it's not really electronic, but more robotic in a way. The sound here, it's more classical um, instruments, yeah, like a little bit more rock, I would say. Um, yeah, but it's a nice record. Can recommend this. Where it's on like it's on EMI, and it's a German pressing. Next up was already shown, the Class Sandinista, one of my favorites from them. I really like it, even though it's a 3 LP record, which often I have a hard time with double LP, and even triple LP is even worse most of the times. But in this case, it's really interesting because there's so many interesting moments and so diverse in an album. Yeah, I really like it, and I can highly recommend it. Yeah, it's a really great record. Um, Next up, I didn't know if I should show this, but no one showed it, and I think it's regarded not. I don't think it's regarded as a really good album, but I wanted to show it anyway. Um, John Lennon and Yoko Ono Double Fantasy. The reason why I'm showing this is that I think that some of the tracks are really, really good. As a whole album, it doesn't really work, and it's also, I guess it's because it's like half a John Lennon record and half a Yoko Ono record, and then it doesn't really work as an album in a way because it's so different. These two parts, but some of the John Lennon tracks are really really strong and very. For me, it's really touching. Uh, yeah, beautiful boy, woman, watching the wheels are great tracks, and I really think they are really wonderful songs. But yeah, as an album, it probably doesn't work. So maybe it doesn't really belong in the top 10. But I didn't want to show only records that has only been already been shown. So I thought I could spice it up a little bit. Next up here from Harold Budd and Brian Eno, of course. Ambient 2, the, the Plateau of Mirror. This is, as it says, it's ambient music, it's piano music mainly. And it's really an enjoyable listen, very relaxing. And yeah, I really like it. It's on the EG label. And yeah, I think it's a really good record. So I can recommend this. Next, I showed Linton Kwesi Johnson last time with Forces of Victory. In 1980, he released this album called, let's see if you can see it here. Yeah. Bass Culture, it's called. And it at that point or in that time when it was released, it caused some controversy because there was a track on it called England is a Bitch, where he obviously he's a very political person, and his poems or his lyrics are most of the times very political. And I guess it was a comment to the current the political situation back then with Margaret Thatcher, and how how the English society was at that point. Um, yeah, it's a really good record, and I actually also like that song, even though you know I could imagine some English people don't really like it, but yeah, for me I can really recommend it. I like it. Dub Poetry. Next up was already shown, and it has to be shown because obviously this was one of, or is one of, the most important albums from the 80s. Talking Heads, Remain in Light. I don't really want to say that much to it. I think already most of you was from the VC was showing this, that made these top 10s, and there's not that much more to say, I think. Next up, Bauhaus, In the Flat Field. When I was younger, I was listening a lot to this, and I really think it's a great album. It makes me smile thinking of how many times I've been listening to this. Has some great tracks, of course. Double Dare, In the Flat Field. Probably the highlights. This is on 4AD. This is a British first press, I think, with Inner Sleep with lyrics. It's a quite nice copy. Yes. Okay. Next up, John Martin, Grace and Danger. And yeah, it's not his best album, but a really decent album from his side. In 1980, apparently this was like a breakup, or yeah, kind of a breakup album. His marriage was coming to an end, at least. And yeah, it's very very heartbreaking lyrics, and very difficult lyrics in a way. And you also, yeah, you sense that there's something at stake. On this, of course, because we are in the 80s, getting into the 80s, it's a little bit more slick sound, quite good produced. On it is Phil Collins as well. Oh, yeah, but I like the album. It's quite good, but not his best. Yeah. And last off, here, see if you can see it with the. Oh, I'm holding. Oops, there it is. Deutsch-amerikanische Freundschaft. Their album called Die Kleinen und die Bösen, The Small and the Evil. Um, yeah, this I don't know. I don't think it's the debut album. It might be their first album. Actually, I'm not sure, but the first side on this record is really good. It's produced by Connie Plank, who obviously produced a lot of krautrock bands, and yeah, it's really good produced. It's kind of industrial punk. It's and yeah, and sometimes you could imagine, as I could imagine that Rammstein has been listening a lot to Deutsche-Amerikanische Freundschaft, and yeah, it's it's industrial dance music. It's I guess the later in the 80s comes this more of these bands, electronic body music, and I could imagine they have been listening to this as well or inspired by this. Yeah, it's a great record. Not as good as Alles ist gut, but also the first side, the A side on this album is really good. I don't know if I'm showing the covers correctly on this video. Sorry if I'm, I'll try to do it better next one. But yeah, highly recommended. This is on, I think it's on Teldec or something like that. But a sub label called Freundschaftsmusik, also friendship music. Yeah, it comes with this version here comes with also a printed inner sleeve. It's a nice record. Yeah, this was my top 10 from 1980. Yeah, feel free to comment. As I said, I will try to make my top 10 81 very soon, so I'm not the last one to show my records. Yeah, take care and see you soon. Bye.